Greetings and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's another episode of Karls Spirits, and I believe this is episode 57. And tonight we're going to be doing Backbone Bourbon Prime Blended Bourbon Whiskey. Backbone Prime. So this is a product of, oddly enough, Backbone Bourbon Company, which lists Bardstown, Kentucky as their home. However, in doing a lot of research, I find that the actual bourbon is a product of Lawrenceburg, Indiana. So yes, this is probably MGP juice, although the company doesn't come out and say that. However, it is once mature shipped to Bardstown, where it is then bottled. So nowhere on the label does it say Kentucky. This is Indiana juice, pure and simple. Originally, Backbone was founded in 2014 by Bill Kennedy and Nolan Smith. They actually had two versions of this that kind of came out a little bit earlier, 2011, and it was available in Indiana only. But by 2014, they're really putting out bourbon that's available in more than just locally around Lawrenceburg, Indiana. And on their website, Smith and Kennedy say that their approach is to buy barrels from distilleries and brand the whiskey under their own label and according to their specifications and their standards. They go on to say, we believe in bold flavor and high proof whiskeys and want our brands to stand out across a crowded room. They must always show consistent quality and exceed expectations for the price. That's from the Backbone website. They do offer several expressions of bourbon, including an uncut version, which is, of course, a very high proof pour. They have a single barrel as well as this prime. They also do a vodka and a gin. So they have a pretty substantial lineup. Tonight we're doing the prime version, and this is actually a blend bourbon. So what this means is they've actually taken several different bourbon whiskeys and a rye and have blended them together. So according to what I could find, what's in this particular bottle is a blend of 7-year bourbon, 5-year bourbon, which makes up the majority of what's in here, and a 3-year rye. And according to the percentages, the rye makes up about 25% of the total volume in the bottle. Because it's a blend, there is no specific mash bill out there. The one mash bill I did find suggests it's about 70% corn, 25% rye, and 5% barley for the bourbon mash bills. It has no indication of what that rye mash bill might be, but it is bottled at 104 proof, so it's pretty decent on its proof. And there's no age statement, as it's a blend of the three mentioned earlier. So on to tasting notes for Backbone tonight. First of all, in the glass, it's got a nice amber color. I would call it medium amber. Give it a good swirl in the Glencairn style glass. And it has very sticky, fat legs. They really cling to the glass. They're just now starting to come down a little bit. So it's really pretty in the glass, actually. Okay, so for the nose, we're going to go big alcohol. Big alcohol in the nose. And to be honest, this is about my second or third, actually my third pour. What I have been doing is pouring it. You let it set for a few minutes, and I am talking 5 to 10. And that alcohol really wafts off, and it leaves a good woody aroma, a little warm cinnamon, and a little kind of cocoa powder. You take a really, really deep nose. You still get a hint of that alcohol. A couple of drops of water will really open this up, and you get a little bit more of the traditional bourbon notes. You get the vanillas and the caramels. But I'm going with a woody note here without cutting it with any water. So moving on to taste. the first thing you're going to notice, it is hot. It's a combination of rye hot and alcohol hot. And it really makes this a very, very hot pour. The couple of drops of water I talked about earlier, which I did on the second tasting I did, it does calm it down a smidge, but not a lot. Behind the heat, once you really kind of push past the heat, definite oak notes, and they're toward the back of the palate. And right at the back of the palate, right before it turns into the finish, in my opinion, I'm getting some really dark cherries. It's a real dark cherry flavor, and it's almost candy-like. So it's a sweet dark cherry right on the very, very back, right as it begins to go down the throat. The finish is what I would call medium long, and it is hot. It really delivers a kick. It really delivers a great Kentucky hug. You feel it in your chest, and it kind of leaves you with a little bit of toffee and tobacco flavor as that heat begins to dissipate. However, my opinion, once the burn is gone, it's like it burns off clean. There's very little lingering flavor. Once that burn is finished, it's like it has burned itself out like a wildfire. There's just not a lot left after the finish of that heat. So, it's bold. It's big. It's heat. A lot of heat here. And I would imagine if you're into like a Manhattan or an old fashioned, you might like this to really be a background to those mixer flavors. I think it's really going to stand up well. Neat or on the rocks with a little bit of water, it's an adequate bourbon. You got to like big bourbons. You got to like a lot of heat though to be able to get to those flavors. I really think the alcohol is a little too much to make this a top shelf contender. I like what's kind of going on, but I just wish they would let the flavor outshine the heat. Let's switch the order here. I don't mind a little heat at the end, but let's get some good flavors going first. I like the flavor, not so much on the big burn. I like high proof alcohols. High proof bourbons are that's just my wheelhouse. But this needs a little bit more refinement, I think. 3.25 Karl stars. 3.25 Karl stars. It's a good bourbon, but it needs work. Let the flavor overcome the heat, not the heat overcome the flavor. It's got good possibilities, though. 3.25 is where I'm standing on the Karl stars for Backbone Bourbon Prime. That's my take. You may have something different to say, and that's awesome. That's what bourbon's all about. But stay safe, peace, and happy pours.